Hello everybody, it's me GhostCritic and it's my monthly look back at my top 5 favourite comics. This time it's from September. My apologies, this is a little late, but I have finally picked out my top 5 comics that I absolutely loved from September, and I'm also going to throw in 5 extra just for your consideration. They didn't quite make it to the top 5, but they're worth having a quick comment or two about. Now, once again, a huge big stack of comics was bought over the month of September. Getting a bit worried because we've still got October to finish, November, December, and my shelves are getting a little bit full. I have nowhere to put all these comics, so I'm a bit worried about where I'm going to put them all. But it's not going to stop me buying them. I'm still going to pick them up every week, even if I have to go without food. So without further ado, let's kick off and find out what was the first of my favourite top 5 comics of September. Kicking off my top 5 with Saga, issue number 38. Now, whenever this comes out and I show you it on my comic book pull list video, the new comic book day video on a Wednesday, I always have kind of good things to say about Saga. Saga is what we expect it to be now. It's always a solid read. It's a good art style. Fiona Staples always brings a great game to the page. But it's just, for me, there's something always just that tiny bit lacking to make it that exception itself it used to be way back in the day when it was just flourishing and we were very, very, very excited about picking up the next issue. So I have to say, I have to kind of hold my hands up, I guess, and go, wow, they did it to us once again. And I say, Brian K. Vaughan, evil, I say, you are evil. Now, there is going to be a big spoiler in this, so if you're reading Saga in trade, I would suggest you stop watching this now and just turn the sound off. When you see this comic fall down and it's gone and the next one's up, put your sound back up, because I'm going to reveal a big plot point, because I can't talk about this comic without mentioning what actually happened inside. And I have to say, once you've read this the first time, everything that happens actually seems so obvious that you can't believe that this came as such a surprise towards the end of this issue. We've got all the kind of tropes of a main character dying, whether it's in comic books, whether it's in a TV series, whether it's in film. You have beloved characters arguing. You've got those hateful last words. You've got someone going on a seemingly impossible mission. You have them reminiscing about the good times and what the future holds. All you could have done to make this any more obvious was throw in that this was their last week until retirement. Yes, Isabel, poor Isabel, our disembodied ghost. Well, it's strange. She died. Yes, Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples, once again showing what master storytellers they are in this. It just came out of the blue. The sarcasm and the kind of bravado of Isabel as she faced this newest bounty hunter, the March, which we can hopefully see there. I have to say, I was called out this week on one of my older videos, my comic book reviews, where I never showed the artwork in books, and they were very complimentary about my reviews and I thank them for it, but I do agree that I very rarely, if ever, show the actual inside of comic books. The reason for being is that this, to me, doesn't look very good, and I have no way of really showing this artwork off to its greatest, you know, benefit. But I'll try from future videos, and in this one I'm going to show some pages of art. just throw that in. I do listen to what you say and I try and fit it all in if I can. Anyway, back to this. Yes, we've got a new bounty hunter after Marcus, the March, and we drop in with the Will as well. But the heavy thing, poor thing, was she died. I could not leave out the last issue of Dark Horse's House of Penance. This is issue 6, the final issue of this mini-series, and what a joy and just a pleasure it has been to read this. From the twisted tale being told by Tomasi about this actual real-life house, but him putting his own spin on it, to this stunningly bloody and macabre visuals that we got from Ian Bertram and Dave Stewart on colours. I have just had the time of my life with this book, and if you've not picked this up yet, you missed out on it. Go do yourself a favour, pick up the trade, just read it in one glorious go and you won't be disappointed. In this issue, just basically everything falls apart. Literally, we have these fantastic full page spreads of our kind of strange overgrown bloody veins destroying the house, and we get to see the great art and detail from Ian Bertram and Dave Stewart. And it's a case of basically who is going to survive in this, who is going to die, who lives, and what survives, in the sense that while this has an ending of sorts, it kind of leaves, though I don't think it will happen, it leaves another story to be told, not necessarily about the Winchester house, but the evil that perhaps was contained within it. I do urge you to pick this up. It was a wonderful read. The artwork by Ian Bertram, the very stylised oldie type fashion and look of all the characters was just beautiful. I enjoyed this thoroughly and I think you should pick it up too. So on Wednesday, when I uploaded my new comic book day video, I once again told you have to be picking this up. Issue 3 is already out, and that was phenomenal. But let's talk about Black Monday Murders 2, Jonathan Hickman's new crime noir with the kind of supernatural occult twist to it. And yes, basically, I'm telling you again, pick this up, and for all these reasons. You've got Hickman once again creating actually an all too familiar world this time, with this twist of like the demonic and the supernatural. We've got this world that, well, this underground kind of secret dark cabal filled with this symbolic, almost demonic looking language, these indescribably rich people pulling the strings on our financial landscape, and it's just so atmospheric. They open this portal to get to this this supernatural kind of hellish environment. It looks actually incredibly like Hellboy in some respects. But just wonderful art again, by Coca on this. But the storyline kind of, it feels like a TV show, it feels like a movie, and there is parts of this. We have Detective Dumas doing his kind of like best Da Vinci Code explorer as he goes to this university to meet a professor to try and decipher this kind of language, this set of symbols he's found at the scene of the murder. And of course there just happens to be a professor who's basically hiding away cloistered in this kind of library university. But we basically throw in some duplicitous characters all of them with hidden agendas, who to trust, who not to trust, and added with it's very Sean Phillips artwork style, very atmospheric, kind of draws you in whether you are kind of like the claustrophobic nature of the professor's office with all his books around him, the very stark and cold offices of this kind of financial institution that's running all the other banks and such like, and then the dark, the grim, the nasty underworld portal, hellish world as well. It all just amounts to just a fantastic book, and with Hickman throwing in all these kind of extra reading material throughout it, whether it's kind of like a chronology of these families and their kind of parts they play in this kind of dark cabal, or if it's like a transcript of a conversation, it all just adds and fleshes this book out so much that I'm just so excited about where this goes. Again, I say I've already read issue 3, and that just was amazing, and I can't believe there will be much more coming in October that will knock that off another top 5 for me. But if you've not picked up Black Monday Murders, another Image book that's just amazing, and I'm just finding it so difficult, keeping my pull list down. We also had the new issue of Kill or Be Killed, issue 2. This is the latest crime noir from Brubaker, Sean Phillips. Just been speaking about Phillips in the last comic, but this is just, they're on to another winner. What can I say? They never put a foot wrong. This is a great character story and study of our main character Dylan by Brubaker here, and kind of delves into his mind and kind of goes through the elements of really what is it going to take to for a person to actually kill someone to save themselves. And that's kind of like the premise behind this book. Regardless of the potentially demonic nature, is there a demon urging him on? Is it all in his mind? But Dylan's kind of made himself believe that if he doesn't kill someone, then he will die. So we've got issue 2, kind of hopping between and messing and going backwards and forwards with the storyline. Brubaker being very playful with the way this story is told. We learn more of Dylan's present day life and the complications that holds with his roommate that he's in love with. There's also all about his childhood and how he grew up, and added on to that, Phillips' artwork in here, it's just he just makes you believe in like the environments that you're in. He just has this great use of paneling and colours. Elizabeth Brightweiss are doing an amazing job with that. The team works just so well together, and I can only imagine the enormous amount of work and cooperation that must go between these 3 people to make just another killer crime noir in the Brubaker Phillips Brightweiss kind of anthology, I guess you'd call it. Another pick of September, right up there. Before we head to my top favourite comic of October, let's talk about 5 comics briefly that just didn't quite make the mark but need to be mentioned just in case you're not picking them up and you're undecided. We're going to start off with the new Rick Remender book, 7 to Eternity, issue number 1. As Remender leaves Tokyo Ghost behind, that's all finished, so it's not a week goes by when Remender hasn't got a comic book out. I think he feels quite forlorn and useless when that happens, but he's got another one, Seven to Eternity, where he's bringing us full-on fantasy, from reluctant heroes to tyrannical tyrants. And let's be honest here, Jerome Apina's art is the hero. You can't mistake and deny how good the artwork is here. And I'm not going to show you this. I want you to go out to your comic book shop if you haven't already and look for this and pick it up, open it up, and just be astounded by some of those gorgeous panels that he's drawn. Yes, the story hasn't quite got it just yet, but there's enough there at the moment that, you know, I'm not being baby fed everything straight away. Everyone's in such a rush to know everything straight off the bat, but I like this world that we've got here, and I'm intrigued to find out more and more about it. On to East of West, issue 29, and finally the moment we have all been waiting for. Yes, Death has met up with his son. He's finally caught up with him, and it's going to be an interesting next arc for where this is going, especially at the end of this book, where our other kind of horsemen of the apocalypse reveal themselves again. And guess what? They're all grown up now, so I'm sure they have more stakes and evil plans to take on Death and take over the world, bring upon the apocalypse. Only Hickman knows right now, but amazing stuff. From Marvel, one from Marvel, and quite rightly so, we've got Moon Knight. It's issue number 6. This is another book that just, it's the artwork that just brings this up a notch. We know that Moon Knight and his kind of, the characters he has within him, his multiple personalities, they've always been a part of the mythos and the history of Moon Knight. But while it's kind of troubled, we'll say Mark Spector as the main person, the dominant personality, let's say. When they swap, they've always kind of had their own time and place, and while it's slightly blurred and it's caused Mark Spector a lot of pain and anguish and mental torture sometimes, it's never been as chaotic as this, and I say chaotic in a good way. We have this gloriously maniacal trip that Mark Spector is on now, trying to work out what the hell is going on in his life. And it's made all the better by having all these artists and colorists on this book. Normally when we see this, a long list of names, we get very, very nervous because we think, oh, this book had to be rushed through. But it's the very differing styles for the different takes on the characters that give this book that extra lift. We've got the kind of the space age Moon Knight. We've got the Jake Lockley, Francavilla doing that. Torres and Stokey both throwing their 2 pence worth in with very differing art styles, which just kind of mesh so well, and they can be as different as can be because the characters that they are portraying are so different. Just a very, one of those diamond in the rough of Marvel titles out there right now. Descender issue number 15. I'm telling you, September was all about the art because, my God, Dustin Nguyen's artwork in here was breathtaking. There are just some great one-page panels where you kind of lose your breath. You really do. It's like, I didn't realise how beautiful this comic could be. And I've loved the artwork. I've always said Descender's artwork on this is just something very, very special for the kind of genre it's taking on. But this was particularly good. Let's not forget Jeff Lemire in this. He's delving into the relationship of our two characters here, Andy and Effie, and the touches of bittersweetness throughout this book just makes the whole package just a great read. Finally, for those 5 that I just want to give a quick mention and a chat to, it is Astro City 39. I wanted to throw some love at Kurt Busiek for this particular issue. Not that any other of his issues have been bad, because it's been a wonderful series from Vertigo. But this was so clever, and it's classic Astro City. You read it and you think it's going to be about something, and it doesn't have anything to do with this. It's got the Hanged Man in, we've got him there on the front, and it feels like it's going to be an origin story right at the very beginning. But what it turns into is, and we've had this, yes, throughout Astro City's history, is the scenes from this woman's point of view, living on Shadow Hill, which is just off of Astro City, where, you know, people stay inside at night, people have kind of protective emblems on their door to stop the kind of evil getting in. But we get to look at the life of this, I suppose she's kind of like a tax accountant inspector kind of person, and she runs her own business. She travels over to Astro City to meet her boyfriend, and there's so many sweet and human elements about this that I don't know if this is a done-in-one story. It feels like we're going to get more of this woman. There's more story in here, whether it's like a subplot in there, but whatever's going on, they do it. Kurt Busiek does it so right, and if you've not been reading Astro City, it's quite easy really just to pick up and dive into this issue, as the stories that happen throughout Astro City, although, you know, there may be, by the time this kind of series ends, there may be a little kind of thread that's weaving all the way through it. You can just pick up an issue and read it, because these are often one and done stories, or, you know, these short ones that you can go and pick up the last issue or the last couple of issues to catch up. But throw yourself into this, you will not be disappointed. I don't think anyone should be surprised that my pick of September was Deadly Class issue number 22. It is and will be my favourite comic of 2016, just as it was in 2015. There is so much about this book that I could rave and be passionate about continually for hours on end. But with this issue, after it's just having had its hiatus, it's interesting to now go back, kind of knowing the rules, so to speak. We know what this kind of academy, this King's Dominion School for Assassins is now, and what is going to happen to our characters as they go forward. We're in 1988 now, we're back at King's Dominion, we're meeting another new set of kind of students, as we've got Freshers Week kicking off this issue. And while we see most of the survivors from last year who were freshers kind of fighting for leadership of I guess I think it's their sophomore year, we are left with Saga, one of the characters from the last run, to remind us of what we've actually lost. And it does appear that we've lost a lot of our main characters, with only Saga left. Remender and Wes Craig have once again filled these pages with new and fully realised characters. And when I say characters, they have their own characteristics, and already as we meet them, kind of trying to kind of make groups like you do at a Freshers Week, find your friends, or at least become part of a group, because you're never safe on your own. You need to be in a tribe, so to speak. And they just both do it so well. And this issue isn't particularly, if at all, action-packed. It's very dialogue-heavy. But the visuals in here, there's a kind of like, we have one of our characters being spiked, his drink being spiked while he gives his kind of freshman speech, and the visuals that Wes Craig and Jordan Boyd put on this, just another fantastic, great look. But I'm intrigued to see where Remender is going to go with this now. You know he's not just going to regurgitate the same storyline. That just isn't going to happen. That would be foolish of him. But there, like I said at the top, there is this element that we as readers now know the rules of this college. We know at the end of this freshman year that, you know, there is this chance that they're all going to be trying to kill each other again and survive till the next year. So it's really going to be interesting to see what tricks Remender has got up his sleeve to make this as fresh and as exciting and as fun and as entertaining as it has been for the last 21 issues. Again, I implore you, pick up Deadly Class. This book is fantastic. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. That was my 5 favourite comics of September. I hope you enjoyed that. If this is your first time watching one of these and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, hit the red button. Give the video a big thumbs up. Let me know what you thought of my top 5. What would have been yours? Let me know down in the comment section below. And until next month, I will bid you goodbye.